to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. This is the difference between the two things. As far as many fights and military actions and things which took place in the old ancient histories, whether in Spain or South Africa, those were days of war in the Christian world as well as in the Muslim world. And there was no UN nor international body to settle the disputes with proper peaceful way. And there were different mad situations. So there is long historical discussions and analysis. But the basic theme is that as starting from the very, very old era, even in the Greek time and before that, and even when the pagan Arab society came, the Byzantine time and the Islam was emerged, and after that the Umayyads and Abbasids, on the Christendom, the Christian world, whole these centuries were the centuries of settling the issues through war. And every single religion, both sides, they used to use the slogan of Islam as holy war, just to mobilize the people, to motivate the people to participate. And there were political motives, but Islamic slogans were normally being used by Christian world as the same way as by the Islamic world. So we don't need to, because to protect or to safeguard or to justify each and every action has its separate implementation, separate explanations, and separate historical backgrounds and differences. So at the moment, we are talking of what are according to the Islamic teachings and what or not. At those days, both sides were equally responsible, because this was a phobia at that time of holy wars. That's why wrongly the word jihad was given a translation of holy war. This is wrong translation. This is also a legacy of those days. Jihad doesn't mean the word war is not contained in the literal root of the word jihad. So holy war is a wrong concept. It means struggle. So that was legacy of both sides. Yes. Thank you.
15 minutes, so one question to each person.
Yes, sir. My name is Cami Bhatt and I write for the Pakistani Spectator. My question is that where did Saudi Arabia, United States and Pakistan took the concept of jihad when they taught these Taliban in Pakistani tents that how to fight against Russian? So if for those Taliban it was legal or moral to fight against Russian, why isn't it legal or moral for them to fight against American and fight against Pakistanis, especially given that it's symmetrical war, they do not have those kind of resources. Number two, we Pakistani,
you said
American,
only one question.
We are guilty to teach those things, those Taliban bad things, how to kill Russian. So isn't that bad for us to kill them rather than teach them and undone the thing that we did wrongly? Thanks.
Answering the last part of your question, I have already explained in my lecture that Holy Prophet's teaching is that if you are firm that these are terrorists and killers of mankind, so instead of teaching them, just terminate them. They are enemies of humanity. Now coming to the first major part of your question. So I know this fatwa of jihad, when a war was being led in Afghanistan against Russia, was given jointly by America, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. These were three international muftis who gave the fatwa of jihad at that time. For their own reasons, I don't want to enter into those discussions, but still there is a difference. At that time, the Afghans were fighting in their self-defense, for defense of their own land, to liberate their own land, homeland, from Russian occupation. Now, keeping the American, Saudians and Pakistani involvement apart, Afghan, they were fighting for their self-defense or liberation of their land. But now, in Pakistan or in other parts of the Western world, nobody is fighting for the liberation of their land. Here in Pakistan, the bombings are on the mosques, on holy shrines, on twin towers, on train in England, Britain, on various aeroplanes, on civilians. So it has no match with that kind of fight. This is just an act of criminality, an act of terrorism. They were fighting at that time to liberate their own homeland. For liberation, every nation up till now has a right to fight anyone who occupies your land. Nobody would say no to that. The third part of your question is that Pakistanis are guilty for that. Pakistanis are guilty and many other people are guilty too. If this evil was totally eliminated just when it was in its beginning, it was commencing, then it was very easy. Once I told somebody who was very responsible of the affairs of Pakistan in a one-to-one meeting that was proper time to eliminate the terrorism. If you don't eliminate them now, after 5, 7, 10 years, they will reach the stage when your own existence and capital would be in danger. It would be very difficult. So this terrorism and extremism, terrorism does not come into existence in one night. It has a long journey. It starts from non-violent extremism. This is the foundation. And unfortunately, up till today, all nations of the world, without any difference between East and West and Islamic and Western countries, I would say all nations of the world, up till today, are committing the same mistake. They are not concentrating on the foundation. Non-violent extremism is not being addressed up till now. And they're not trying to understand that the violent extremism and radicalism and terrorism emerges from this soil. So non-violent extremists in ideology, in theology, in way of thinking, they are free everywhere. Rather, they are most reliable people in the world. And when it emerges into, converts into radicalism or terrorism, then we start fighting the terrorists. So I think this war of terrorism, we can't succeed in it. We can't succeed unless we start the war of ideas, the war of theology, the war of ideology, by comprehending all basic postulates and basic theories through which they are being misguided. We have to start this war of ideology right from non-extremistic soil. It is still not being taken care of. Thank you.
I'm Ali Chaudhry. I'm professor at Rutgers University. I'm also founder and president of the Center for Understanding Islam, which has been engaged for the last 10 years in educating both non-Muslims and Muslims about the meaning that you're talking about, the true meaning of jihad.
Yes.
My question to you is this.
Yes.
If we still have religious leaders and institutions in Islamic countries, whether it's Pakistan or other places, that are advocating the extremist ideologies and using jihad to justify, or using the meaning of jihad to justify suicide bombings or other activities, what are you as a leader doing to change the mindset of those people who are being trained in these institutions? And what should be the responsibility of the leadership in the countries, including people in the United States or Muslims living in the West, to say, how do we actually counter this extremist ideology so that we can actually turn the tide and have these people truly understand what Islam really teaches? How can you provide the leadership in that regard?
Thank you very much. As far as my humble role is concerned, what I am doing or I can do, it is in front of everybody. I'm traveling all over the world from east to west and discussing the same subject, propagating this message of Islam and peace to the whole world, Muslims and non-Muslims, and condemning the acts of terrorism, substantiating with the authorities of Quran and Sunnah, and trying to change their mindsets. What we can do, we have to differentiate between two groups. One is those who have already been totally brainwashed, and they are already suicide bombers and they are terrorists, they are brainwashed, and now you can't change their mindset, except if Allah wills, God wills. They are few in number. As far as the overall, when we consider the Muslim world, very, very few, very small minority, those who are already suicide bombers or attackers. Majority, millions of the Muslims and youngsters and youth, they have not yet become suicide bombers and terrorists, but they are on the same way, same path. So they are accessible to them. Internet, the media, information, the blogs, the discussions and the speeches and the literature and the propagation and messages all over the world, they are reading always, and they are being disturbed out of the political situation, and the extremist people, they exploit the issue of political situations, and in order to make their particular mindset to to motivate them to bring on this side. So what we can do, and I am doing, and we should do, we should address particularly those millions of youth in the Muslim world, in the Western world, those who are accessible to radicalism and extremism. They are would-be suicide bombers, or they can be would-be terrorists. We can stop them from becoming this. We can stop them by changing the mindset. How we will do that and how I am doing. The reason is that there are certain institutions, when you ask, are there certain leaders or religious people or institutions doing this? Answer is very briefly, yes. I don't say no. Yes. What they do, not only institution, the media itself is a very big institution. Your internet and the people are being taught, all these ideas are spreading all over the world. So they are parroting Quranic verses with wrong interpretations. قَاتِلُوهُمْ قَاتِلُوا أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ, without any context, as I explained everything that you have to, and they parroted some hadith of qital and jihad, just the reward. They have been given just concept of martyrdom. Martyrdom. They are martyred. Concept of the virgin, concept of paradise, then economic frustrations. So it is very easy to access their minds, to motivate them, to brainwash them, and to take them for the martyrdom, and to take them for paradise, and to do the jihad. This with misleading is very easy for the young generation. So what we are supposed to do and we should do, and I think it has not yet been started. The US, Britain, Western government should do that, and Islamic government primarily they should do that. Some institutions are required to be built where specialized on these particular subjects, where the scholars and the students and youngsters and the people should come for specific courses. They can run for 1 month course, 3 month course, 6 months course, 1 year course. More than that depends upon their availability and how much the people want to learn. So that they may understand that all ideology which was inculcated in their mind was totally wrong. They shouldn't try to understand through Quran and Sunnah. Since they are Muslims, they will understand the language of Quran and Sunnah, which is wrongly communicated to them and interpreted to them. You have to give them the right message of Quran. Then these people take them away from classical interpretations. They just take them to the textual wordings. That's it. So they don't go towards the context. They don't read the tafsir books, exegesis. They go to the commentaries of the hadith and the authorities of Islam and hadith, tafsir and fiqh and aqidah. 1400 years, those who have passed on this knowledge from generation to generation up till now, they are totally unaware of these things. So these academies or institutions should be built up where they should be taught the real, all those verses should be taught with exegetical interpretations. Concept of what is concept of jihad, what is Darul Harb, what is Darul Islam, what are the rights of the non-Muslims, what are the conditions required for the qital, lawful war, what are the conditions which make an act of killing and criminality or terrorism. So what are the relations between the two, human rights, democracy, peaceful living, interfaith harmony. Minhajul Quran is, I would say, is the only one Islamic organization, worldwide organization in the whole world, which can claim for the